One item that inevitably comes up with annuities is fees. What are the fees? What fees are being charged? Where are the fees? How are they being charged? When we look at fees, we're going to break it up into two different categories. The first category is what I call embedded fees, and the second category is what I call explicit fees, those that you can see sort of like on a price tag. So let me first start with the embedded fees. When we're talking about embedded fees, we're typically talking about fixed annuities. That could be a fixed rate or a fixed dollar amount payout. But the point is, the fees are embedded. You won't see some label that says you're being charged 0.5%, 1%, or whatever. You're just going to see the terms of the annuity contract. So let me start with a few examples. The first example would be a multi-year guaranteed annuity, or MIGA. You know what the rate is. That's why you're buying the product. You might get 3, 4, 5% locked in for a certain number of years. With MIGA, sometimes you do have to watch out for some sneaky carriers that use simple interest instead of compound interest calculations. But the point is, what you're primarily concerned with is the rate on the product. Just like when you're buying a CD, you really want to be concerned with what money am I putting in and what am I getting out? And the difference between those are going to determine the performance or what rate of return you get. So there's no real explicitly stated fees. The second example I'm going to use is another fixed annuity, but it's going to be, say, a period certain annuity where you put a certain amount of money into the product and then it pays you for a pre-specified number of periods. Again, there's no explicitly expressed fee in this case. You just know the money you're putting in, you know the money you're going to be getting back, and you have to work out some math to determine what the performance of that product is. Regardless of how that annuity company or insurance company determines the fees that they might charge internally, what matters to you is the money you put in and the money you get out. The third example I'm going to share here is another type of fixed annuity, but it's one that's going to guarantee lifetime income. It could start immediately, it could be an immediate annuity, or it could be deferred, but the point is it's going to deliver income for the rest of your life, or maybe somebody else's life as well, if it's a joint payout. So when you have an annuity like this, you again don't have a price tag. There's no explicitly stated fee that tells you what fee the company might be using or embedding in their own formulas or accounting. What you know is the amount of money you put in and then the money that you're going to get out in terms of those payments. However, you don't know how long you're going to live. So this calculation gets a little bit more complex because you're going to need to integrate a mortality or an actuarial table. I have my own calculator that does this because the calculations do get complex. There's the mortality tables, there's the interest rates, but you also might have to consider features like a cash refund or a period certain feature where you're guaranteed to at least get back the money you put in, or the payments last for a certain number of years. Because, of course, when you buy income for life, if you were to pass away early, income for life might mean just a few payments. The point is, again, with these type of products, there is no price tag. The fees are embedded in the payout, and what you need to do is compare the money you put in versus the money you're going to get out. But in this case, with lifetime income, with the actuarial table, you'll have to calculate the money you're expected to get back from that annuity. Now let's look at some of the products that have explicit fees. This includes index annuities and variable annuities. I'm going to focus on index annuities because in general, I just don't see very many opportunities where variable annuities are advantageous. With index annuities, there's explicit fees for various features or various riders or options that you have with these products. For example, you might choose a rider that guarantees a guaranteed lifetime withdrawal benefit, or GLWB. This is basically just an option that allows you to get guaranteed income for the rest of your life through an index annuity. So this might cost you an additional 1%, 1.5% perhaps, but the point is this is going to be a explicitly stated fee. Now, there are other riders that involve fees as well for minimum income benefits, enhanced death riders, long-term care, chronic illness features, and some other things. But the point is, you do want to keep an eye on the explicit fees because they do detract from the cash value of the product. Now, just because we've come across some explicitly stated fees within a product, that doesn't mean it's everything you need to know. There can also be some embedded fees in these products. For example, I always recommend keeping an eye on participation rates, caps, spreads, floors, or other features that can reduce or limit the performance of the underlying index or the product itself. These features, these limiting factors, effectively impose a cost on you. While it's not a fee, it is an embedded cost inside of the product. Even if you think you have a good understanding of these parameters, the participation rates, caps, etc., there's another factor you need to consider as well, and it's the actual indices that are built into the product. Many carriers are starting to use indices that are effectively engineered to dilute performance. Instead of using an index like the good old S&P 500 that we know and love, they might use an S&P 500 variant index that's the S&P 500 volatility controlled or risk managed. Sometimes they might even use an index from an entirely different company that you don't recognize. This is getting really complex and into the weeds, but it really highlights the fact that you want to work with somebody that understands these factors and will work with you to help you understand them, but also to help you find the best product for your needs. Last but not least, there's one more idea I'd like to share with you on the topic of fees within annuities. Even when using annuity products with explicitly stated fees, it might not be worth caring about these fees. Now, before you turn off this video and think I'm crazy for saying don't look at the fees, let me explain. Many times when we buy index annuities, we already have plans to use those products to guarantee lifetime income. In this context, what we really care about is maximizing the amount of income we receive from these products. In many cases, index annuities can guarantee more lifetime income than we can with fixed annuities like SPIAs and DIAs. So through the riders, we're going to be getting more income than we could find with the other fixed products. In this case, perhaps we're not going to mind so much that there's a fee on the rider if it doesn't ultimately impact that level of guaranteed income that we receive. So that goes back to looking at the net performance of a product. How much money we get in and how much money we're going to get back out, or how much money we expect to get back out of that product. This goes back to why are we using an annuity? You want to make sure you have a purpose for annuity. If you don't know what you're doing and somebody's selling something to you, just take a step back. You want to know how you're going to be using the annuity. You want to know what fees are in that annuity, and you want to know if those fees are relevant to you. So I hope you found this helpful, but please don't hesitate to reach out and let us know if you have any questions, whether they're general about a product or specific to your situation. We're here and we're happy to share our expertise and help you in any way we can.